I laid the sod underneath the tridge when the tridge was built with my dad in
Wow.
78, maybe, whatever year that was.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
Wow. Tell us about that. What a wild project,
Oh,
huh?
I had sore wrists when I was done. I know that.
You were tired.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back to the Talk Midland podcast. My name is Logan Richetti with Realty, and today I have my old pal, Dave Reeder from Reeder Landscaping.
Thanks for having me, Logan.
We're celebrating 60 years in business this year.
Makes me feel old. Yeah, 60 years. Yep.
Take us back through the journey. When did Reeder Landscaping start, and how has it survived and thrived for 60 years in Midland?
So my dad officially went into business in 1965. Okay, actually, I brought a receipt in that we found going through the archives, so I'll show you here in a minute. And actually, prior to that, his father, my grandfather, lived in Auburn, Fisherville, and worked at Dow Chemical, farmed, and also put in lawns on the side. So I think that's where my dad kind of learned the trade. And Dad went into the Navy, served his country for 4 years, got out, and got into General Motors as a machinist. And that lasted about a year. His heart wasn't in that. And growing up on a farm, that culture and everything. And so he left there and started officially the business called Reeder Landscaping. We had a garden center in Auburn for about 15 years. At one point, we owned a Polynesian pool franchise. The economy in 79, 80, took a really poor turn, and we got out of that business and focused more on contracting. And there's been some ups and downs over the 60 years for sure. But myself and two brothers went full bore in it in about 1986, 87, and we've scaled it to what it is today. So.
And today it's a premier landscaping company in Midland, and you have a very impressive operation. Can you tell us about the operation and also what the core offerings of Reeder Landscaping are today?
Sure. We are a residential design build maintenance firm. We know what we're good at. We focus on that core business. Snow removal, we also do that, but we pride ourselves in working for clients of every, not just the affluent and the high income people, but for everyone, which that in itself can be challenging. But we do projects from a half a day up to 6 months, a year. So, and I'd say the business mix is about 55-45, 55% design build, landscape construction work, and the other part's maintenance.
So when I think of Reeder Landscaping, I think of the bigger projects. I think of, the big, beautiful, stunning backyards and front yards with landscapes and flowers and all kinds of different trees and elements like that. New construction, but also, higher end homes that have higher budgets for big landscaping projects that want to be striking and beautiful. Those are very intricate projects.
Very detail orientated. Yeah.
And some residents in Midland have recurring accounts with you. So every year you guys come out and I assume that in the spring you do new plantings.
All year long.
All year?
Yeah. Yeah. And those projects you're talking about are some projects it's very common to phase in over a few years too. We may do the front 1 year, the back another year, and, another project actually another year. So it's not always done in one season.
It seems to me that those who are very interested in their own landscaping, they take it very seriously, and it's
for sure.
There's a lot of pride of ownership.
Yep.
So piecing together different elements of your landscape over the course of several years can be required just based on constraints like budgeting and timing and different priorities of different projects. But what is Reeder like to do the most in terms of the bigger scale projects? Are we talking actually? Like water features and things like that, or is it all?
I think the more complex, the more we like it. The more challenging. We do a lot of work on the lakes. Hopefully Sanford and Wixom will be back in business there soon. But retaining work, multi-level projects. Grade issues, grade changes, drainage changes, challenges, those types of things. We're pretty good at.
How does a design project like that? What's the life cycle of a project? Somebody reaches out to Reeder and schedules a consultation.
Correct. We have 5 landscape designers, and depending on what the scope of the project, our sales manager will assign that based on the scope of the project and what they're looking for. And it's a process. I mean, it's there's a series of initially there's concepts drawn depending on the scope. Again, the scope revisions, and they settle on a final design. Contracts drawn up. It's handed over to operations and to execute it. And there's very common to have changes as you go as well. So
sure,
yeah.
And so you have on your campus. Where is your campus exactly?
Rockwell. We have 30-acre property on Rockwell Drive.
Yeah, that's a pretty big campus, and that's where all the materials and the trucks and everything is stored. But also, you have some kind of display elements there.
We have a huge display garden. Actually, we're celebrating the 10th year of the completion of that display garden right out front of that facility. That we love to bring people in. Obviously, in today's digital world, you can look at things on your phone, on your computer, but there's nothing like walking through, touching it, seeing it, and it's been really a rewarding project to do and bring people out to.
Well, it makes it a lot easier to visualize or conceptualize what you're trying to do at your home when you can come into the area there and visually see some different options and ideas, and you can point to things and say, I like that, I like that. Can we adjust this?
It does help the process for sure.
Speaking of inviting people in, you have a ribbon cutting ceremony coming up.
Correct, to celebrate our 60th year and our 10th year anniversary of the display gardens.
And
the 19th. The 19th of Chambers coming out next Wednesday? Thursday?
It'll be June 19th.
June 19th at 4:00.
Okay, that'll be nice. Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
So as the operations element of the partnership, if you will, tell us about the mechanics of the company. How many employees are there? How is it structured? I know I have a couple pals over there that work there that are really good guys.
Well, there's 3 brothers that own it, and of course, there's always overlap with ownership. But my other 2 brothers are more in the sales design end of it and the finance end of it. I've been more operational, running more of the operations. And the last 5 years has really been mostly HR related as we've grown. We're in the 90-ish employee range.
Wow. Holy cow. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people, yeah. Very rewarding, though. Great team. Obviously, it's about the people. You've heard it a million times, but you get the right people, you get them in the right chair, and you create and maintain a culture of of growth, enthusiasm, and they'll take you wherever you want to go.
Well, a while ago I had John Lynch from Three Rivers on here. We talked a little bit about the organizational structure of that operation, which, as you know, is very big. And so I'm always curious of how these businesses are structured mechanically. And so if you have several design consultants, do you have project managers?
So we have superintendents.
Okay.
Superintendents, yeah.
So a superintendent will be assigned to a project, and then that person, he or she, will manage a crew underneath.
Multiple crews.
Multiple crews. Yeah, sure. Multiple crews.
Yeah.
Okay.
And once that handoff is made, they become the client contact primarily, unless there's design issues. So
got it.
And our designers, not only do they design, the way we're structured, they do the estimate, and they obviously present and sell the project as well. So they actually wear 3 hats.
Wow.
In some companies, everyone's structured a little bit differently. And the 3 owners are actually transitioning out. So our organizational structure, our chart, it's pretty fluid right now. So it's going through some ebbs and flows as we transition out.
Sure,
which is really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you've been there for over 30 years almost, or in the range
40.
of 40 years. Holy
personally,
moly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking back, at the 60-year anniversary. It makes you think back a lot. But I laid the sod underneath the tridge when the tridge was built with my dad in 1978, maybe whatever year that was.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
Wow. Tell us about that. What a wild project. Huh?
I had sore wrists when I was down there. I know that.
You were tired.
Yeah, that's changed a lot over the years down there. But that was a big deal when the tridge was built. That was and it still is. It's really cool. So we do some, we do every now and then do some commercial work when we're invited. Not typically a bid build situation, but like Dahlia Hill, the stonework at Dahlia Hill, we've done that, and some other things. Ashman Court, we did that a couple of years ago. So
interesting. Yeah.
With Three Rivers. Yep.
They were in conjunction with them. Yep. Well, who's doing that new bridge downtown? Do you know who's doing that?
I do not. No.
I just drove over the Poseyville Bridge this morning, and I saw that bridge coming up for the farmers market, which is nice.
Yeah, it's another pretty neat structure, isn't it?
I think it's important that the city of Midland try to use the local contractors when they're doing design work like that and building out having big budgets to spend money on things like that. Hopefully they're keeping it in the family as much as they can.
Always nice.
Well, let's switch over to the other side of the Reader landscaping model, the 45%. This is a lot of maintenance, and these are lawn and snow accounts for residential houses?
Residential, we do commercial maintenance as well, but we're probably 50-50 is our maintenance department, residential, commercial. Yeah. Lawn mowing, lawn care, lawn fertilization, sprinklers. We have an irrigation department. In the snow, tree care, anything that has to do with outdoor, horticulturally wise, we do.
So do you segment your crews to be on a rotating schedule during the summer months of lawn care, and then maybe snow removal in the winter months, and then have the other crews doing the design build projects, or do you mix and match them by the day?
They're separate. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. The crew, their crew, they're department specific. So guys that do landscape construction do landscape construction. We actually even separate out what we call hardscape from landscape when doing the brick pavers and the big retaining walls and fire, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. That's stone masonry type stuff. Yeah, that's even yet another skill set, another specialization. So.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then the irrigation part, that's all separate people as well. So, yeah.
These are specialists, so you schedule them accordingly. You allocate the resources based on the skill sets, based on the needs of the project.
Right.
Wow. And then that's a lot of coordination.
Yeah, I mean, on a big project, you got sometimes four different departments coming in there. So typically under one superintendent, but there's a lot of handoffs. The communication part is challenging. That's got to be well thought out. So. How this department leaves it for the next department, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it'd be nice just to have one crew go in there and do the whole thing, but it doesn't work like that.
No, construction just isn't that linear all the time.
No.
Yeah. No. Well, what about you have to have? I'm just thinking the mechanics of trying to operate a business with 90 employees that does a mix of design build projects and recurring maintenance projects. Now, obviously, you can segment the crews out into different divisions, but you still have to have budgeting, scheduling, payment collection. You have employee payroll and HR and all the other operational components to the business.
In our industry, you also have a weather component.
Yeah,
which is the most challenging.
Yeah, because you can't just say you're Monday, you're Tuesday, you're Wednesday. Because if it rains, you got to shift everything.
Rain, all kind of different things. Yeah.
Who's in charge of making those adjustments?
Right now, my nephew has a team that does that.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a layer of management.
There is
on top of the superintendents.
There is.
Got it. Yeah. So somebody needs to be at the top, looking down and seeing the big picture. Because the superintendent might have 4 jobs, another crew might have 15 lawn accounts, and they have their default plan. But when the weather interrupts that plan, somebody's got to be there to mix and match and move everybody around.
That's the department manager in our business, in our company, that does that.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And two departments: maintenance, which is the mowing, the lawn care, the plant care, the irrigation, and then the landscape construction is the other one. Yeah.
That's wild. What are the biggest challenges with running a landscaping firm in Midland of that size and scope?
Well, I think any landscape company seasonally, in this part of the country where it's very seasonal, is spreading the work out. We will get well over half of our leads, maybe 2/3 by the end of June. Obviously we kind of work longer than the end of June, so we have to know how to, spread that out, get people to wait. You mentioned planting in the spring. Everyone thinks you can only plant in the spring. Well, that's not really the case. You can plant once the frost is out of the ground, right up until the frost goes in the ground, as long as you can provide some water. So, but everyone thinks they need to have it done in the spring. Now, the large projects actually, it's like building a home. People are willing to wait for that. But it's the smaller projects that, people have a graduation, they have a wedding, whatever. That's very challenging to meet those demands, yeah.
I never thought of that. I never thought of the constraints around the client schedules, because especially in Michigan, when you have a short summer, it seems like short spring and not kind of a longer summer and fall. But it would be logical to think that everybody would want theirs first right away now.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's no way logistically that a landscaping company could deliver that to everybody. So you have to figure out ways to budget and time.
You do. And we're fortunate that a big chunk of our business is repeat, people that call us every year. So we really know, we kind of reserve space, which helps. So.
Yes, I'm intimately familiar with this because I've our family and has these accounts and I see them every year, and I'm blown away by what you do.
Thank you.
It really is special, and it's not easy. It's not easy work.
No.
It's not easy to design these projects, to negotiate these contracts, but then to execute them and to deliver them at the highest quality on time and on budget, and to the client satisfaction, which is very difficult, especially in a visual, transaction.
To really be successful in this industry, you have to just be willing to. Customer service is huge. You're going to have things that get ruined out of your control. Yep. You just have to accept that, factor it into your model, into your, from your pricing to your scheduling, and just know that you have to go back and take care of it. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people, especially startups in this industry, they struggle with that. Something they need to learn.
Well, what about another struggle? I would guess would be snow removal management, because you can't count on when it's going to snow.
Correct. I look at it as almost like an emergency service nowadays. People don't want the liability. Your commercial properties, obviously. So you're on call 24/7. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, someone's birthday. People expect you to be there. So
I can tell you, as somebody who owns several commercial buildings in Midland, when it snows, we have to have it plowed, and it has to be plowed quickly,
right?
Because otherwise there's liability and there's slipping and fall hazards and all that. But that means that everything has to be plowed within a certain, few hours in the early morning, pretty much.
Sometimes repeatedly.
And sometimes more than once a day.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then it might not snow for 3 weeks.
That's right.
But you have to have all the trucks. You have to have all the shovels or sleds, whatever you call it.
Kind of like being a firefighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except, we only get paid when it snows. Mostly. We do have some seasonal contracts too, but that's what I tell our teams. It's and it's easier today with the technology and notifying people. We have sophisticated notification systems, and not like the old days where they don't answer the phone, or their alarm doesn't go off and all that kind of thing. But it's still challenging. Don't get me wrong.
That would be tough.
Yeah.
So we're not in Phoenix, Arizona, where you can cut grass 12 months a year.
Right.
We have seasons here, and I think now in the early June, we're coming into that mowing season. I know that because I'm coordinating all my properties to make sure they're mowed.
Yeah, starting to grow pretty good now.
Oh yeah. But in the winter months, how does a landscaping company maintain revenue streams, or is it just so seasonal that you have to forecast for revenue?
You have to budget, forecast for it, because you can't depend on the snow. Within reason to expect a certain amount, but it's in your budgeting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's been open for 60 years, but 40 years of that, the kids have been in charge. Not the kids, but the
current three owners. Yeah.
How do you balance leadership and management with brothers? Where are you in the pecking order? Are you oldest, middle, or youngest?
I'm middle.
Okay.
I figured you would ask me that, so I thought about that a little bit.
Yeah.
We're fortunate. I feel very blessed. So first of all, I'm in business with my brothers, and they're also my best friends. So that's a pretty unique situation. We're aligned. I think, no matter, if you're siblings or not, at the top in that leadership team, you have to be aligned. You have to be on the same page with, your commitment, your work ethic, your effort, and where you want to go. And that's not to say we don't have challenges. We have our rowdy board meeting, so to speak, but we're all on the same page, and maybe we're lucky, but that's the driving force, I think.
Well, it must have been successful, because 40 years of dealing with each other and keeping each other, close enough to where you're moving in the same direction and able to overcome conflicts and differences of opinion. That's not easy.
And it makes it easier to attract, good people too, because they don't want to be a part of something that's chaotic and confusing, so really work on our culture. Culture's, is just a huge thing.
Well, how do you build culture in a service-based business where there's a lot of manual labor, a lot of difficult jobs? How do you create and maintain a culture where people want to work there and want to stay there and grow?
Communication, open door policy, career ladders, showing what's, creating genuine opportunity for people. That's not easy to do. I mean, it's hard to tell where anyone's going to be 3 years from now, let alone 3, 5, 10. But and just being very open with our vision, where we want to go, and who we want on the bus with us. So that's how we get buy-in, I think.
Well, you're 40 years
That makes
in.
sense?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it makes total sense. It's a real genuine question for me because it's a very difficult thing to do.
It's not easy, but uh, those that are willing to do that, I like to tell my team, take a pyramid and flip it upside down and draw a line right down the middle of it. Okay, where's it more crowded at? It's crowded really at the lower end. Okay, it's it's very open at the top, to get past that middle line, but it just takes a lot of work to get there. But that's where the space is at the top, not at the bottom.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my core business, Modern Realty, it will be 10 years this year in July.
Congratulations.
So, and I'm very proud of that. I can't even imagine 60
It's
years.
about the time we met, right, when you got going, right?
Just at the beginning. Yeah, we've been pals for a while now, for sure. And I appreciate all that support. But I've been watching your business and just been blown away. We've had a few lunch conversations about, growing and managing and maintaining a business. You've been a mentor in that way for me. But I am very impressed with the way that your organization has been constructed, managed and grown, and operated at such a high level for so long. 60 years is just a wild accomplishment. You must be so proud.
It's definitely made us step back and you know me. I'm on to the next thing. I don't focus on accolades and milestones, but this one has made me take a look. So.
Well, what is your vision for the next 20, 30 years with the business? Obviously, you're not going to be doing it forever.
Yeah. The transition and watching this new team who's, more talented, more focused, more better with technology than the three of us. I'm excited to see where they take it. That's going to be really cool.
I think there comes a point in a business owner's life where transition and next phases of growth and vision become a priority. And I think there's a lot of opportunities coming up with, new technology, AI and different ideas, but also just new blood or fresh blood or fresh ideas and fresh energy. I have found that it does become, you have to be careful not to let it become stagnant after you've been in a leadership role for so long, that you have to find ways to continue to innovate and do new things. And, we have 3 new agents coming in this month. And that's nice to see. Every time we bring in a new agent into the building, it creates new energy and new opportunity.
Yeah.
Yep. New market share, new networks of people that they bring in and opportunities that way. And so I think it'll be interesting to watch your business over the next 5, 10, 15 years as transitions inevitably occur. Do you think you'll have a hard time letting go, or do you think you'll be okay?
Getting out of the way,
Getting out of the way. That's a good way to put it.
Maybe. Probably a little bit, but we'll just have to work through it. Yeah.
I think that'll be all right.
Yeah.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned in 40 years for running and owning and operating Reader Landscaping? What would be a lesson that comes to mind that you've learned about it?
Well, there's several, I guess, but just do it right the first time, I think, is one. Sometimes you only get one chance to do it right, so you better do it right the first time. Help other people get what they want, your staff, your team. Create the opportunity for them. Take the eyes off yourself, I think is extremely important. And enjoy what you do. I mean, life's short. Try to have some fun with it.
Yeah.
So.
What about one of the biggest mistakes or regrets or biggest lessons you've learned from a failure running the business? Anything come to mind? Something you wish you had done differently, or?
Personally, I guess in the beginning, I had a hard time when people, we deal with a perishable product. Okay, so it's when we leave a project, it's not like leaving flooring or leaving paint. It's it needs to be taken care of. And we guarantee our work, guarantee our plant material. And sometimes it's obvious we leave and they don't do their part. It's frustrating. I think that's been, and that's caused some arguments on my part, over the years. But I've learned to look past that, and other members of the team have helped me with that too. Personally, that's been a challenge for me. So.
Yeah. So you're delivering a landscape design. it's completed, it's at a certain condition. Now, at that point, you guys pull off the job. The clients have to do some kind of maintenance with watering and the irrigation and different things. And then
there's an establishment period. Not, you have to get it established, then you go into maintenance. And a lot of people don't really grasp that. So
I didn't know
that first, depending on the time of the year and the year you're having, that first 6 to 10 weeks is pretty critical. Yeah.
Well, we've helped thousands of home buyers and home sellers. Not every transaction goes well. And, obviously a lot of times there's a transition period in real estate purchase when you buy a house that you never lived in that house until you buy it. So then you buy it and you realize, wait a minute, something's wrong with this house. We didn't know that was wrong. And then, so post-transaction issues can come up. And regardless of who's responsible for those issues or liable for those issues, there can be a negative outcome or a negative experience in the relationship with the client as a result of those things, whether or not they're your fault or not.
Right.
And we've had that problem a few times, not too many, but it's something as a business owner and as a provider of services that you have to figure out how to account for and do your best to mitigate the situations and help your clients feel better about a bad outcome or whatever happened. And, but that's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
The other thing that comes to mind for me is you said get it right the first time, is implementation of the right software systems. Over the course of 10 years at Modern Realty, we have, I think we've gone through 4 or 5 different operating softwares.
You're not alone. Yeah.
You've done that too?
Oh, yeah. We just implemented a new one, which I think is going to be our answer. But our industry's been behind the curveball a little bit with technology, and we do so many different things. It's hard to find one software that'll do it all.
You think you have?
I think so. I think
Well, let me ask you this then, because I've dealt with this too. How do you lead the implementation of a major structural change to the operating model of your business?
It's hugely difficult. Yeah. I've not been involved with that end of it too much. Our nephew has spearheaded that and our sales manager, but that's been a massive undertaking for us to transition into that software and operate at the same time. We're almost there. We started it in November of 23, and we're about 80% there, I would say.
That's how long it takes?
It does.
November seems like a good time to start it because you have less operating day-to-day work going on, and you can shift a little bit of your bandwidth and focus into the implementation of the new software. But I think you have to find your core leaders have to have buy-in, and that's not always the case because a lot of times people get used to what they do.
For sure.
And they'll say things like, well, it's worked in the past. Why do we need to do something different?
Change is scary for people.
Change is brutal. Change is a pain.
I don't like it either, right?
Nobody does. Nobody likes change.
But, it's part of life, and things are changing rapidly, as you know, right now. So you better saddle up, man. It's things are happening.
You have to. I really don't like operational change and improvement, even though I do it all the time and I prioritize it a lot. After an operational change is implemented, it's such a feeling of relief after a while. And I'll write on my wall, I'll never do this again. No more changes for 6 months or whatever. But you have to keep iterating the business to keep it cutting edge and efficient and effective. And people who don't have or run a business don't always understand that, but it's so critical to keep things moving in the right direction so your business can sustain for 60 years.
Right.
And if you were still on the same operating model from 60 years ago, it would be pen and paper and a notebook, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't even
prehistoric, right?
Yeah. You have to do that. Let's talk about marketing a little bit. I know you're the operations guy, but Reader Landscaping does a lot of marketing, and I see a lot of different strategies. What is the most effective marketing strategy for a landscaping company?
It's referrals. That's number one.
Of course.
Landscaping is a highly visual, obviously, business. So you want to look good. You want good logoing, good, yard signs, billboards. But we do everything. Social marketing is a whole other animal in itself. We have, someone in-house that does that for us. But multifaceted marketing, I guess, carpet bombing marketing, I think some people call it. But that is not my department. So
well, Modern Realty probably 80%.
I feel we're really good at it, though.
I do too.
Yeah,
and I don't say that lightly.
Yeah,
I see Appreciate Reader that. Has a lot, and one of the ways that you can, in my mind, you can judge the effectiveness of a company's marketing strategy is top of mind awareness. And I think you have built very, very high levels of top of mind awareness in the Midland area. If you polled 10 people and said, hey, who's the first landscaping company that comes to mind? I bet you would get a lot of answers of reader landscaping. So that is in and of itself an accomplishment. Now, obviously 60 years of marketing compounds.
Name's been out there a while.
Yeah. But I see your trucks everywhere.
Yeah.
Your branding and your logos are on your trucks and all your equipment. You do have, you put signs in the yards of your projects. So I see those. I think I've seen some Facebook advertisements and sponsored ads and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder, you have to do all of it. Like you said, you have to
we even do some TV, actually. We do.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't watch TV, so I never see those.
I don't either, but yeah.
But that's
some
interesting.
People do.
Yeah. Well, and I know marketing is not your specialty or your department that you're in charge of, but how do you track, or do you even attempt to track clients by original source?
We try.
You try.
Yeah, we
it's
try.
Hard, right?
It's very hard, but we've always tried. Yeah. And we keep trying, and we'll always try to do that. Yeah.
It's hard to do that because somebody might see your TV commercial and then see your Facebook ad and then call your office. And maybe you ask, hey, where did you hear of us? But they don't always know, or they might the original
don't remember
source.
what people are in a hurry.
Clients don't care about that.
They don't want to think about it sometimes.
They're thinking about the project, not about their original source.
Right.
We do our best, and I used to be very, very concerned with original source. But what I've noticed in our business anyway is it doesn't matter. They come where they come, and they're all coming from referral and past clients and networking and sphere of influence. But that's a lot of that's because we don't spend a lot of marketing dollars on lead generation, because I don't think real estate, if you want to sell your house or buy a house, you're probably going to call me because you think of me, because we have a relationship and we've done business before. I don't think you're going to go on Facebook and see an ad and decide to sell a house and call that person.
No, I'm not on Facebook anyways. I am a dinosaur, so, you know me, I'm a pretty private guy. But
oh yeah. But I think landscaping is the same way.
My daughter's in in marketing. She works for a credit union, a series of credit unions, and Dad, you gotta be on Instagram. You got to, need a better social, make sure that's part of your strategy. So, and it is. It is.
Well, I've talked to and I've hired and I've interviewed several marketing firms, both local and national. And one of the things that I have realized is if you basically have to come up with a content strategy, but you have to create your own content. So in order to do that effectively, I had a talk with Scott, who owns Lalonde's, about this when he was our guest. And he was saying the same things. I don't want to do that. I hate Facebook. I hate this. But I gave him some ideas. I said, just have some of your employees do some funny skits or some funny content pieces and give them some kind of incentive, free steaks, whoever has the most views or whatever. Yeah. And I think there are some capabilities of maybe some of the crews doing some of the work, or even setting up a still camera, or some kind of documentation of process that I think could be very visually interesting for, say, an Instagram channel. Yeah. Now, you're not going to do that, obviously, right?
Well, we've got some things in the works with YouTube and some other things. So, yeah.
And then education-based marketing is always effective in my mind. So if you had somebody, maybe one of your design consultants, what do you call it? What do you call those? Superintendents, or the design engineers, whoever designs the scapes, maybe just recording a 5-minute video, watching them go through the process of setting one up.
Giving us some good ideas.
Yeah. So there you go. And the reason I say that is because if I owned a big house and I needed landscaping, or I was interested in landscaping, and I came across a video where Reader Landscaping helped me to understand how a design scape is engineered, that would make me more inclined to want to reach out to Reader to help me actually implement that. And the challenge with media like that is that it's very hard to directly tie the return on investment.
Right.
And a lot of, business minded folks like us, if we can't connect an action with an outcome, it's hard to justify. It's hard to measure
that result. It's hard to put a KPI on it or whatever.
But for example, I've been doing a podcast for Finley Capital for a year and a half, and how do you quantify the result of that? I don't know, but it's growing. It's grown by leaps and bounds over the course of 3 or 4 years.
Then, right?
It works. Yeah. It absolutely works. And I think a lot of times your social media ends up being your resume. So maybe somebody sees your ad and they Google landscape design Midland, Michigan, and you got some SEO, and it catches the Reader Landscaping content, and then maybe they click on it and they see a YouTube video about how to do it. So they all work together. Right. The client life cycle, the client journey from idea to reaching out inbound is multifaceted. So yeah, I think all those different strategies and different approaches.
You got to do it all. Yeah, for sure.
I see I'm getting fired up about that. I'm not the best at it, but I find it
You're
fascinating.
pretty good at it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I just think it's so, I think the client journey is interesting. And then
Yeah.
and I think 60 years of success means that clients refer and come back.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you can't always quantify that, but you know it's happening because you wouldn't be in business for 60 years because you would have to constantly be finding new clients and you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
We do track our renewal rates and stuff like that. We try,
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
Do you have any kind of customer satisfaction measurements?
We do surveys,
Yep.
surveys and things, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, surveys all you really need. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of identify trends of different maybe departments or different offerings to see what they're liking the most and not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, landscaping design is not cheap.
Right.
So this is not a budget style concept, but this is something that you make an investment into the beautification of your home.
Well, you said the key word, investment. It is an investment, So if you treat it like that, you sometimes get a return on it. So
absolutely, and as a real estate salesperson, I can tell you that you do.
Yeah.
When your first impression of a home is its landscaping, it's landscape design, it's landscape style, and
curb appeal, right?
Curb appeal. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yep.
And the hardscape can make a big difference as well. Recently, there's different ways to do landscaping and different concepts, but I've seen lately a lot of more sustainable materials like rocks and less mulch, more rocks, fewer plants, but more strategically designed and placed.
It's more permanent, Logan. It's you don't have to replace it. So
when you go in for a design consultation, you can share your thoughts of how you want to build your design landscape, whether you want it to be more seasonal or more evergreen or long-term, if you will. And then from there, you adjust for costs and you balance the difference between all that.
Yeah. I mean, some clients come in knowing really almost precisely what they're after. And we have them on the extreme other end where they have no idea what they want. So, which those are a little more challenging, but our people are really good at, asking the right questions, finding out what they're after, and putting something, if they're looking for a Chevrolet, you don't want to give them a Mercedes, right? I mean, you want to give people what they're looking for. I think we're really good at that. So our design team, they really are.
So the design team knows how to structure a plan around a budget, whether it's a lower budget or a more extravagant budget. You can make it work either way.
That's right. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to learn more about Reader Landscaping, or maybe even schedule a consultation or pick up services, where would you send them?
To the website, our website.
Which is?
ReaderLandscaping.com.
Dave, thanks for being on the Talk Midland podcast.
I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Congratulations on 60 years.
Thanks. Appreciate it.